Hello there, Chicago White Sox fans. My name is Brett Ballantini. I'm lucky enough to host the Mothership podcast at Sox Populi. This is 188, number 188. We are hurtling toward 200. Nothing can stop that this year. 121 losses might slow it down. It might get a little dicey by the end, but if they're really pushing 120 losses, we'll have a bunch of podcasts like we did last year talking about that. So it's sort of unavoidable. We will cross the double century mark this year. I am joined by, oh my gosh, intact, the Indianapolis field office of Chrystal O'Keefe and Super Joseph Resis, together again. And together, it seems like always on these Mothership podcasts. And of course, Hannah Filippo, who at this point has missed, I don't know, maybe one podcast. So her track record and attendance record is stellar. And the complimentary, it's probably something they don't do anymore, the complimentary tickets for good attendance in school. 2 Sox tickets. They will be golden box seats headed your way. We'll get them in the mail shortly. Hannah, thank you for showing up. All three of you. We're checking in with the last place White Sox. Last time we talked to you 10 or so days ago, the White Sox were in first place. But of course, the sucker punch there is they're also in last place because it was a 5-way tie at 2-4. Well, the White Sox have gotten down to it. They're getting serious about playing this 2025 season, and therefore they have fallen into their customary place, sadly customary place, last place. Briefly, going into action on Sunday, they were not in last place. The Twins were a worse team than the White Sox. So it's going to be neck and neck for the basement, at least through April in the AL Central. Right now, White Sox in last place, 4-11. However, just a negative 3-run differential. That, if you want to do some kind of weird extrapolating, and, Super Joe, he'll correct me because he's a Sox math guy, but that's playing out as a 77-win team. Now, we know better than that, but point is this team is playing closer. They're playing tighter. When they win games, they're blowouts, all but one. 3 out of 4 have been blowouts. And when they lose, they're tight. That's a sign of progress. And we're going to get to that here in the first half of our podcast. Right now, White Sox are the worst in the American League. Again, customary position. Basement, it's cool. It's a little clammy. It's dusty. You can catch weird diseases, but it's comfortable, especially as the summer's coming, getting hot, muggy. You want to be in the basement. Tied for the second worst in all of baseball, of course, with the Atlanta Braves. Who didn't pick that? Only the Colorado Rockies, who cannot score a single run on the road this year, are worse. So, to my esteemed panel, our challenge in the first half of this podcast, before we get to Record Store Day 2025, the important part of this podcast, as we get the White Sox out of the way, let's discuss how this team, from what you've seen, from what you've studied, from what you've written about, is different from 2024. There are some things tracking very similarly, including the overall record on track for 119 losses. Yikes. But again, the way they're going about their losses, significantly different through 15 games. So what's different in your eyes?
I'm going to start first and say the vibes. And that's kind of a silly answer. Mm-hmm. But I mean, players seem to be having more fun. Their losses aren't as brutal. It's not like we're consistently getting blown out. And it just seems like Will Venable is kind of cool, chill guy. And he's kind of put together a nice team of really young kids. I constantly call them babies because I feel old every time I see a kid born in 2001 on my baseball team. But he's got young, talented kids, and it seems like even in their losses, they're not like Miguel Vargas hiding, crunched up in the little corner like he was last year. They just all seem to be in better spirits this year.
Yes, he's hitting 180 with some flex.
He's doing something finally.
Joe and Hannah, what are you seeing?
Well, they have Shane Smith and Martin Perez. That was not the case last year. They're even last year they did have some top of the line starting pitching, but I mean, it was pretty obvious that those guys were probably going to be traded sooner rather than later. And Smith, I feel like at least has a chance of remaining with the White Sox for a long time. Perez, that's not
They
really the
better.
case.
Yes. Yes. One of the two has a chance of sticking around. If they get rid of that guy, what is the point of anything? Well, that's a philosophical question for a different podcast. But yeah, good point. At least one of these guys getting off to a good start, and Shane Smith ought to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Smith's first few starts have been very good. Of course, on Sunday's game, that he takes, I guess, technically a meaningless pitcher loss because, the Crochet was, really on top of his game. But he was still, pitching quite well. And that was very good to see. Like, he's strung together a few really good starts now to start his career. That's been great. And I also feel like the bench isn't completely hopeless anymore. And kind of like some of the players who maybe we weren't expecting as much production from, or at least not early in the season from, they're getting a little bit more production than we would have expected. Baldwin's kind of cooled off this past week, but overall, before he got hurt, Corey Lee was looking pretty solid. It'll be, and Mike Talkman, that's a veteran pickup who they weren't expecting much from. I think, but he's been off to a good start. So there's some stuff to kind of look positively on in the early going that we weren't able to see in the first few weeks of last year, when it literally took they had 22 losses before they won their fourth game. So I mean, it's something.
Yep. Joe Resis, our smart analyst writer, rarely gives me an opening to sort of shoot through and give him trouble. It seems like that's become a habit, though. So, Joe, we got to get you out of spring training mode into regular season mode. Interesting, you didn't mention Davis Martin as one of those features. I wonder why that is. But, again, you could throw him in there, too. We really do have a core of three guys, and Davis Martin being two that may stick around all year because I just don't see the young guys going. I mean, Davis has had 2 of 3 really good starts. Shane, 3 of 3. Perez, 3 of 3. So the idea that this starting pitching might not take too bad, again, we're talking a little crazy here, but might not be taking too much of a hit compared to a Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty, the way he was pitching for the White Sox first half last year. That's astounding. If that could happen, well, then, my 120 loss train is going to be derailed quickly.
And that is completely fair. Martin has looked very good 2 out of the 3 performances. I suppose the one bad one kind of has, through only 3 starts. The one really bad one will really mess with his numbers for a little bit, but he has been pretty darn good so far. I will say
he has that tendency. Remember the game? I think the last game of the season a couple years ago.
Yes.
And he gave up like 12 runs. He went from having like a 3-something, like an awesome, really first year, and then it turned out to be like a 5-year just because. He was hung out to dry because Lord knows the game 162 is important for your starter to muscle through when he doesn't have it. Pedro. Okay, Hannah Filippo, what do you got in terms of what you're seeing a little differently? We've touched on a lot of stuff, so you can echo or give us something new. Trust me, we're going to get to the similarities. I know you've got some of those as well because there's some ugly similarities, but what's a thing or two that's really stepping out as a little different with you as you're watching the White Sox in 2025?
I think the biggest thing is that they're scoring late. You didn't see that really much at all last year, and seeing them last couple games scoring in the 9th, even if they didn't come back today, showing that they're hanging on and they're still trying late in games is a really good sign, I think, even if there was there. And you're also seeing some production, even if it's not super high. You're seeing production throughout the lineup. It's not too many guaranteed cold spots or cold hitters for long stretches of time, which is nice as well.
You want to talk about vibes, going back to what Chrystal said, you want to talk about vibes being better. Joe is saying like Mike Tauchman's been doing a good job. He's been basically broken and dead in a hospital bed for the whole season, but he's been doing a good job. Hannah's saying, there's not really dead spots in the lineup, and the lineup you look at, and it's like 180 and 190. I get the point, but I mean, that does speak a little bit to what Chrystal led us off, which is just we're willing, and after all, we've got our 4th win already. We did not have to wait till game 25 or whatever. So of course we're going to be feeling good. For briefly, we weren't in last place. I mean, these are all good feeling things. Okay, I'm going to give the obvious answer. I cannot believe all 3 of my really smart, much smarter than me guests whiffed on this. Chase Mydroth. Hello, that's what's different. That little power-packed energy wad has come up. They are 2-1 with Chase Mydroth on the roster, for God's sake. Hitting machine, walking machine. He's not afraid to break up no-hitters, like whatever. I kid, I think, but I mean, that type of energy, I think maybe I don't know. Somebody said, this young roster, again, which is sort of funny given the fact that Chris Getz is trying his hardest to just fill it with as many 31-year-olds as possible who have about 1.5 legs or, whatever, a haircut he likes. But eventually, in theory, this will be a younger and younger team, maybe actually with some of this esteemed talent we hear about in pipeline. In case whoever had Chase Mydroth in the pool for the first guy to come up and make an impact, collect your winnings. But nice to see a guy hit the ground running. We've seen so much of White Sox guys getting called up. I mean, Brian Ramos had that hot week and then he got hurt, and he's never been the same. We just don't get anybody coming up and just going, all right, I'm done. Drew Thorpe had his 5 to 7 starts, and then, his elbow started yelling at him. We just do not get many players who just hit the ground running. And wouldn't it be awesome to have the 5'4" guy who's just as round as a weeble, but a kick-ass offensive player? Swing more. Will Venable, all right, I got a bone to pick with Will Venable on that one. Swing more. Just get on base. This team hits 205. Just get on base. Okay, so the correct answer here was, not that we grade it like let's show around the horn. We all should be yelling more for around the horn. We're not scoring here, but I won that round. Okay, we're going to take a break because this is a quick podcast. We got to get to records. We're going to take a break, and I don't know, maybe we'll flip side it. Hopefully we'll still find ways to say some nice things and talk about the White Sox, but I mean, it's unavoidable that we have to talk about how this team isn't different from 2024, or maybe there's no answers. Maybe I'm the only one who'll be talking during the second half of this podcast, more so than usual. Okay, we're going to take a break. Minute or two, hang with us. We'll be back. Sox Populi 188. White Sox fans, my name is Brett Ballantini. Extremely fortunate to host the Sox Populi Mothership podcast, the most powerful of all podcasts, except for Visiting Dugout, Ladies Night, Sharing Sox, pregame podcast, postgame podcast. But other than those, and a few I think that are defunct, other than those, this is the most prodigious of the podcasts under the Sox Populi umbrella. And that has a lot to do with the host who's speaking right now, but he'll stop speaking soon. 119 lost pace. That's unavoidable. That's math. I'm not good at it, but I can do that math. So that's still the pace. Pace doesn't mean anything. The Sox played the Angels. You could argue the Sox have played a better than that. I mean, again, Super Joel figured this out for me, but I think you could argue this is a tougher than average level of their schedule at this point now with these 5 series under their belt. So you could say, all right, well, they're due nothing else for, a break because they're going to get to play, I don't know, the A's and, some other, the Twins again or something, the Rockies 3 times this year. So maybe the White Sox aren't destined to 119 losses, or maybe they are. Series-wise, they're playing 200 ball in series. They've won 1. Last year, they didn't play much worse than that. There are similarities, even if the run differential is about 8,000 runs different already this season, because I remember podcasts a year ago saying, well, the White Sox, because, I had my math, I had figured it out. Oh, they're projecting to be 6,000 runs in the hole, which projects to a 29 win season. And, we just nodded along with dead stares, and it never changed. It basically never changed all last year. But this year is different. We have 4 wins already. But tell me now, panel, come up with something, Chrystal, Hannah, Joe. How is this team feeling similar to last year? I mean, the record is the thing. I mean, there's some obvious stuff, but are there things that you're looking between the lines or in the lineup that is just giving you that feeling that it's going to be another endless and long season in 2025?
Okay, I was gonna say Joe gave me the nod. I was gonna say still very sloppy baseball is being played. Although I don't know, after that Red Sox series, I feel a bit more confident about the errors the White Sox are going to collect this year, because that was wild. I've never seen so many bad throws, and I know the Red Sox are very deeply missing Connor Wong at this point, because that guy catching couldn't do anything right. But they're going to still be sloppy, and we're going to see some really dumb plays and some really dumb sends. And even though they wanted to tie the game, sending someone who has previously been injured and can barely run, only to, probably pull a hamstring again, was one of the dumbest plays I've seen so far this year. Probably the dumbest play I've seen so far this year. So I still think they're going to be very sloppy. And when you have a team full of rookies and guys that have been around for a year now, you're going to see some pretty incompetent baseball, just like we did last season.
It's significant, Chrystal, if that really holds up as the ugliest or dumbest play. I mean, that's significant. We're 15 games in, and that's the one we're going to come up with. That's an amazing difference. Okay, it doesn't fit the theme of the second half of the podcast, but yeah, it is a difference. That is a difference. Okay, Joe hit his buzzer at the same time and graciously conceded to his cubicle partner in the field office. But Joe, okay, have at it, unless Chrystal took your answer.
Yeah, they're still finding ways to lose a lot of games. Yeah, I know that on the Boston broadcast, they had talked about that before this series that just happened.
Yeah,
when
he
that
timed me
happened,
there
I was
before.
like, okay, I just had a gut instinct that the White Sox were going to have a good series after that. And yeah, it turns out that they did. But even putting aside, this series in which it seemed like a minor miracle for them to win 2 out of 3 games against Boston. Like that's, yeah, they have definitely had a lot of games these past couple of weeks where it seems like they should probably have more wins than this. But yet they're still finding ways to lose. And yeah, it's they've had like the 3 blowout wins and have looked pretty bad elsewhere. So it's I don't really know how many more blowout wins they have in them. It's kind of weird that they have 3 already like that, but yes, I think just the tendency to find ways to lose games that they're supposed to win, it feels kind of similar to last year.
Yeah. Again, you're not hanging with the theme when you point out the blowouts. The White Sox last year had 2 blowouts. We've already beaten that by mid-April. 2 blowouts. No offense to the Red Sox and our esteemed, somehow I forgot listing Soxy Chicks as a more prodigious podcast in the mothership. Of course it is. And that's not just Crystal's, because Crystal's here, but mostly. And no offense to your partner Bailey there, but something up in Boston. I know last year they're like, oh well, we can't. It was a growth year or whatever. This year they are the pretty much consensus division winner, certainly consensus playoff team, and they come in and lay an egg like this. Last year they lost a series, one of the 9 series. The White Sox won. One of them was to Boston. I mean,
she's got that Boston cockiness, and I get it. I do, because they are going to be way better than us. But between her and my other Red Sox and often visiting dugouts guest, Ed Hand, between the 2 of them, I both had messages from them saying, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, if they were to forego the rest of the season, it would be that would be an excused absence after what just happened, especially coming in all chuffed. I mean, granted, it's a broadcasters. Who cares? Of course, they run their mouths. I mean, we've got the king of running his mouth here in Chicago broadcasting for us. But so I mean, that's just a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. And Joe, you're probably right that the minute we see stuff like that, as stupid as it is, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, okay, bulletin board material. Are the White Sox allowed to use bulletin board material? Probably not, but maybe they did. Something happened. Something clicked. That didn't make any sense what just happened this past weekend. All right, Hannah, I know it's depressing. Who wants to acknowledge this, but tell me how this team, in your eyes, is similar to a 121 loss team of just a year ago.
They might be hitting slightly better, but they're still not scoring that many runs. I mean, I looked it up, they have like 50 runs, and that's fourth worst in the league. And their wins are coming off of just luck, or all of their runs coming in a very very few innings. So it's just surprising in a way that they've actually managed to win 4 games with how little offensive production they've had. And bullpen is also another. It's slightly better, but it's still not great. And I know that's not what you can't really expect a great bullpen from the year one of a rebuild, but it's the same. Just it's the same, different players, but same look.
See, if the White Sox keep acting like it's year one of the rebuild, which they're doing, then you never have to attend your bullpen. So Chris he gets to keep his parking spot. He definitely gets to keep his salary. I'm sure he gets a bonus because he probably shows up too. It's probably not free tickets to a White Sox team. It's probably something nicer than that. Yeah, the bunching is crazy. This is going into, I can't correct my math. I'm not smart enough to think on the fly like this, but going into Saturday before they actually won the series with a win that wasn't a blowout, they had won 3 games by 26 runs, and all their other losses, how many was that? Like 12, whatever it was, 12 by 28 runs. So you could say it's good. There's in games. You can also say it's bad because they are absolutely offensively inept. Nothing, even with Chase Mydroff on this team, they are inept. And I'm not really sure how we're going to see this changing. Does Luis Robert wake up and say, "Oh, that's right, I'm a 300 hitter. I finished 5th in MVP voting 1 year." Does Miguel Vargas, with his new sunny disposition, actually say, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm a major leaguer and they're giving me tons of chances. Maybe I should hit more than 180." I don't know if you can just flip a switch like that. I mean, I hope they can. Or if Edgar Carroll comes up, I mean, he can affect the team like, Chase Mydroth has, but I mean, there's no one in Charlotte that's going to rescue them, steal a couple more wins. I got to change the course of this team when you've got the top of the order hitting below 200. Sorry, Andrew Benintendi. I know you make a big difference because Lord, no, you are not going to be hitting 200 by the end of the year. No way. Chris already knows he's hitting 17 homers this year, even on the IL.
I'm going to fight him every day.
He's made like one. Here's another Easter egg. He's made a good defensive play this year. Has he not? It wasn't somebody else, right? He made like one good defensive play this year. That's more than last year.
Congrats on one good defensive play this
These
year.
are looking up. I'm forgetting 120 losses now. Might be 120 wins. Okay, so before we get to records, before we roll the credits on this unbelievably brief Mothership podcast, I don't know what's wrong. I'm sick. Maybe I must be sick. But okay, so the question now is, what do you think is going to win out? We've got compelling cases for this being very similar. I mean, literally, the team is on track to lose 119 instead of 121. All right, whatever that means. And there's compelling cases that this is a different team, including the fact they don't have so-called frontline starting pitching, but the starting pitching is, roughly 15 games in, a wash from last year, and they had 2 Cy Young. Fetty was better WAR, at least some WAR measures than Crochet at the time he was traded. So There's compelling cases to be made that this is a different and new era, or that this is just the same old, same old. What are you feeling is going to win out? Please give me an answer, and I hope not everyone has the same answer, because then we can have lively debate. What do you think? 2024 redux, or is this a new era?
I don't think it's a new era, but I think it's going to be a slightly better time. I don't think, even though it would be funny to break last year's record of losses, I don't think it's going to be as painful. And I think that just goes back to what I said in the beginning, is the vibes are just way better. And I think people are going to actually have fun. So it's not going to be as painful as last year when we were all just waiting for loss 121.
You think there's something in the clubhouse that will be sustained that just says, you know what, we're not going to have that 10,000 mile you're not going to see a Miguel. I'm sorry, Miguel, we just got to talk about you because it's you memed yourself. Sorry. That 10,000 mile like death stare. You think they're just going to be like, not just because they may eventually theoretically younger, but there's just something that says, hey, we can win today. Because last year you did not see that.
Well, yeah, I think it's, you hit rock bottom already, so you can only climb up from there. So I think they're just in a position where they're not going to go back, and they're going to do what they can. Even if they're still terrible, they're going to do what they can to not be back in that position and lose their fan base. I feel like it's not going to be great, but it's going to be a lot better than it was last season.
What, Chrystal, makes you think, I mean, again, small sample size, and we'll acknowledge this, that Will Venable is different? Is it something he said, something you've seen, or just what he hasn't said? Because an answer with Pedro is like, we're just listening to him. He's not a leader of men. So it could just be he's not doing anything, and that's better. But what aspect of the sort of the Venable leadership is coming out here? Or is it just, yeah.
I mean, he had more experience already than I feel like
Sure.
Pedro ever did.
Oh yeah, he did.
He's not a dinosaur like Tony. He does not have anger management issues like Ricky. Like, I could just continue to go down the line of these managers, but I think he's just a young, fresh face that has the experience. Like, and I mean, and I still go back to, it turned up when Grady took over last season. It went from this total shift of like, I hate this team, everything is bad, to Grady coming in and saying, okay, well, you know what? At least the players are finally happy. I feel like they hated Pedro. And it kind of goes back to these guys have somebody young that is more welcoming and more inclusive and is actually able to work with these players on a more personal level versus previous administrations.
Grady still throughout devilishly handsome, but boy, I tell you, that stint managing the White Sox, I mean, it wasn't quite like the start of a presidential term in the end, but it wore him a little bit. It wore him a little bit, poor guy.
And that's okay. Still a Grady's lady, still OG Grady lady, but it aged him a bit.
Yeah, he deserved a nice 2 weeks on a beach somewhere after even just serving that brief period of time that he did. That was duty that was probably a surprise even to him, and he made it. He made it alive. Okay, so that is a tempered, optimistic 2025 is going to be different from Chrystal. Now, Joe and Hannah, what are your answers?
There will be enough things that are different to avoid having back-to-back years of breaking the all-time loss record for a single season.
The bar is low.
Yes.
That bar is low.
But ultimately, I think if we're comparing the case for things to be different versus the case for things to be the same, I think there's more at this current moment in time for things that are the same as last year. Yeah, it was a very good point earlier about how they're still not scoring runs despite, having, much better overall vibes and, some random production from players that, we haven't really expected them to, contribute very much. 50 runs through 15 games And that's very much propped up by 3 performances. That's
26 runs and 3 wins. Yeah, that's half of them.
Yeah, it is not looking overly solid. Like that was certainly a major downside to last year's team, was just barely averaging more than 3 runs a game. I guess they're averaging 3.3 right now. Last year was 3.1. So yeah, not much of an improvement there. It's different, but not by much. So if I'm choosing between which side is the stronger side, I'd go with more that's staying the same.
And Joe, Jerry's pissed because these 3 blowouts came at home. That means more fireworks. That means more money going out. The blowouts on the road, he'd be like, cool, I'd like people maybe getting excited, maybe buying a couple more beers, but no, okay, cool. Fireworks budget alone, it's probably blown for the year. They budgeted like, 20 homers at home, and they've probably already hit that many. So ultimately, okay, all right. Joe, Hannah picks up some extra points in our pretend around the horn scoring system with the runs acknowledgement. So now it goes to Hannah, potentially tiebreaker. All those 4 of us, so maybe not a tiebreaker. What you're thinking, Hannah? A little too similar to 2024 for your liking, or are you part of the bright sunrise that is being presented here in 2025, presented by and hosted by Will Venable?
I would like to think it's different on the condition that they stop experimenting with these lineups and they start playing them as if they want to actually win the game and not trying to figure out who's going to be positioned where. Like seeing Brooks Baldwin in just please stop with that. Put an actual outfielder in the outfielder if you want to win a game. Like stuff like that. If they keep this up, it will be the same or slightly better, to Joe's point, but they actually play to win. And even if they don't hit a ton out of the park, if they bring up Kyle Teal and Edgar Caro and people who can hit, then we might see more of a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The lack of offensive production is so similar to last year. Joe crunched the numbers there just instantaneously. That's what you get when you have a Sox math champion on your podcast. But yeah, it's not, I mean, again, small sample size, but like a bastardized sample size given the blowouts. Now, we're not going to ding the White Sox for having blown out wins. That's wonderful that they have 3 this year and they had 2 last year. Unbelievable. But what is going on with all but those 3 games and Sunday's game. I mean, of course, Garrett Crochet was angry and he wanted to win the Cy Young all in one game, and he had a no-hitter, pushed deep, and okay. One of the toughest pitchers they're going to face all year. But still giving away at bat. I mean, at least it's acceptable to give away at bats or to lose in the battle against Garrett Crochet, but there's been a lot of guys not named Garrett Crochet who've handcuffed the White Sox. Not quite the Cy Chens of Hawk Harrelson past, but still, this team is handcuffing itself. There are depth issues Hannah just brought up, and I don't know how many off seasons we're supposed to just still punt, because here's the problem. As if you will read on Sox Populi right now, okay, pause the podcast, go read it. It's a pretty short piece. You can get through it pretty quickly. Hannah's latest piece talking about how there is no right fielder of any consistency in White Sox. Going back to Jermaine Dye, for goodness sake. Avisail Garcia, if we're really going to push it. And here's the problem. Nothing's coming. If we're talking about catcher, no sweat. We got 2 guys, flip a coin. One of them's going to be all right in the majors. Probably both going to be pretty good in the majors. Right field, we got nothing until Braden Montgomery's ready. Could be a couple of years. But that's a couple of years. And Getz is not going to do anything to fill in. They didn't want to sign Bright. Do you remember when we were talking about signing Manny Machado and people were saying, well, what are you going to do with Yohan Moncada then? If he's playing third, what are you going to do with Tim Anderson if Machado is going to play short? How is this a problem? This is a different podcast, and we're trying to wrap this one up so we can talk about records or whatever. But Getz doing nothing. The White Sox spending nothing. Will Venable can only be dinged so much for having to put, say, Brooks Baldwin in right field, because there's no, and who are they going to call up? There is no young guy. Zach DeLoach is the only young guy I guess, in Charlotte. He's not coming up. So they're going to just use one of the retriggers. They're going to go get Brett Phillips, from last year. They're going to get Kevin Pillar. They're going to just find guy who the Cubs just cut. Let's pick him up. It's ridiculous. This is one of the 9 positions on the field, and arguably a pretty significant one. Left field. We're playing Andrew Benintendi. Clearly, left field doesn't mean anything. Right field's a big. Well, anyway, okay. It's not a tie-breaking vote because it does seem like, if I have to look at it, it seems like 2 votes the same, 1 vote a little different, and I will acknowledge that these close losses mean something. Projected for 77 with your Pythagorean, 77 wins, that means something. We didn't see anything close to that last year. There's hope there. If the bats could just wake up a little bit, the problem is the bats wake up, the starting pitching is going to be this guy all year. I mean, even Shane Smith is going to be like, hey, wait, I'm a rookie. They're catching up to me. We saw it with Drew Thorpe. I don't know if it was just the elbow. It also could have been that, some teams are seeing him a second time and saying, hey, wait, the ball's not coming to the plate that fast. So, the starting pitching is probably not going to maintain this. Hagen Smith, we just saw at AA, he had an awesome start and a horrifying one. Noah Schultz has done the same. So these are 2 guys who are going to rescue the rotation in the second half. Not sure about that. So unfortunately, I have to cast my vote on Team Joe and Hannah and say this is seeming a lot more like this isn't just because I picked 120 losses this year. And it's looking like it's going to be hard to match that. But I do think this is not going to be enough of a significant step forward to make me feel good. And that has a lot more to do with, sorry to keep picking on you, Chris Getz, the fact that they're not putting a competitive team on the field than it is something, I don't know, Will Venable's doing, or is Miguel Vargas supposed to be a leadoff hitter? Is he supposed to be even a top 3, top 4 in a lineup hitter? He's a guy you'd like to maybe get some nice bonus hits, like a Joe Creedy thing, like 5th, 6th, 7th sometimes in the order. AJ Przinsky, oh man, another homer from AJ. What's he hitting 7th for? Any person hitting 210 gets put into, a leadoff or batting 2nd. Or Luis Robert just continues to bat 2nd even when he's not even hitting 200. These are problems that Will Venable should not be faced with. But of course, he took the job knowing the personnel. I don't think Chris Getz said, oh yeah, we're going to spend once you say yes. So he sort of knew what he was getting into. I guess I can't feel too bad for him. But boy, he was happy when he had that first win. And they poured all those multicolored liquids on him. That was a good moment. Unfortunately, that is going to be the cornerstone and key and repeated highlight in the end of season 2025 DVD, because I just don't think there are going to be too many more highlights other than Brooks Baldwin getting a walk-off hit, Will Venable getting doused for his first win, and a couple other miscellaneous things. Andrew Benintendi did something, whatever. Chrystal showed up to the game on her birthday with Colleen and the Estro gals, and they won or something. That probably should make the DVD. And then the giveaways, those will make the DVD because the giveaways are usually good. And the new big sloppy sweet thing in a helmet, that'll make the DVD because that's a highlight for this season. All right, I could see why you keep coming back and are just counting the days on the calendar. Again, probably 7 or 10 days or so till number 189, because man, if this podcast doesn't get you hyped about the fortunes of the Chicago White Sox in 2025, what will? So Chrystal, sorry, I don't think you're quite shouted down, because I think we all want to go. Let's face it, it's a very fine line between what you said and I think what the 3 of us said is sort of like, okay, we're just sort of a little wary, and you, go figure, you are feeling the most optimistic. What's going on, Chrystal? You did have a good record store day because you're feeling sort of optimistic 15 games in. I like that. Okay. Given that you're covering roughly half the games this year, I guess you better be optimistic.
I have to watch so much White Sox baseball.
Sorry to do this to you, but at least you get to do Visiting Dugout podcasts with teams that are better and not dumb and like have hope and stuff. So maybe vicariously you can sort of feel good usually.
The A's one that I recorded today, kind of a riot though. That was interesting.
Good. Yes, two teams in utter chaos. It should be a riot. Yeah, it should be a riot. Okay, well, okay. There's your cue. Please now, if you're listening for some reason like 2-3 days late, why don't you listen to Sox Populi the minute it comes out? If you are, guess what? You can pause this, or as I finally wind this up, go right to visiting dugout, even if it's like one game into the series. It's a riot. You got to listen to a riot. Even if it's a given when it's the White Sox, it's something riotous because you can get shot in the park, you can get sick off the weird helmet food. You know what? It's just crazy. Joe, Hannah, thanks for showing up and participating and coming up with more right answers than wrong. Chrystal, you're forgiven for being so sunny. We need you to be, though. So actually, at this point, maybe about June you can start turning, but I think we need you a little sunny till June.
I think this is just like I'm just ready to go on vacation, so I'm feeling very optimistic.
All right.
That might just be it.
Okay. So by the time you get back, probably next podcast comes up. So, all right, we are going to get a little bit more of emo O'Keefe. And okay, so you will be on the 120 loss train with me next podcast, just not now.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Give it like a couple weeks, but yeah.
Okay.
I think
All right.
post vacation, I'll still be kind of chill, and then by June, I'll be like, no, actually, I hate everything.
Okay, so then when the signal goes up, Joe, you'll know you'll have to show up. You're gonna have to try to pull Chrystal out of any despondency because we need her. I mean, you're doing minors, Joe. So I mean that's bad. You know that's rough enough. But I mean we need Chrystal is our go-to recap writer, and if she decides that she's quitting the White Sox, you might as well just turn out the lights at Southside Sox. So we can't do that. Anyhow, we have Southside Sox writer and Sox Populi writer. Oh, yes, indeed. Double dipping. It's Hannah Filippo. Again, if you didn't pause and read the right field article, just go do it. It's a quick read. We're not challenging you. Come on. This is a computer. How's it going to challenge you? It's not a novel. Just go read the article and then be sad and think, why did I listen to him telling me to read that article? Now I'm really bummed. Super Joe Resis coming up with his players of the week here shortly, or it's coming up. He's had his time off, but now the grind really starts to grind him. Our Wednesday minors writer and our weekly and monthly minor league highlights. Thank you, Joe, for taking that on again. And well, you should be thanking me for letting you do that because you don't have to look at the major league team at all. Lucky dog.
Yes, thank you.
Man.
Thank you. It is much nicer.
Joe just laying on the waterbed, just thinking, man, life is good. Did the White Sox play today? I don't even know. Did they play today? And Chrystal, all right, we've already gone through that. Sorry. Again, call me at the end of September, and I don't know. I'll send you the check for damages. Okay. I'm Brett Ballantini. Thanks for joining us on this. Again, 7-10 days. I don't know, unless there's something emergency that we got to talk about, or we have to somehow break into Chrystal's vacation and bother her with more White Sox. We'll have another one here in, I don't know, week or two. It'll be 189. Thank you for joining us. We are not here without all of you. Thank you for listening and reading and sometimes even watching. We'll be back with you definitely sooner than you're ready to see us again.